What's going on, guys? It's Bromley, and if any of you are wondering what the hell I'm doing with these latex bands wrapped around my legs, I'm doing blood flow restriction training or Kaatsu training. It's also called occlusion training. Many of you have probably seen some guys do videos where they do, let's say, an arm workout with a tourniquet wrapped around their upper arm to try and get their biceps and triceps engorged with blood as a way of increasing fatigue. And that is a very useful, and it's actually turned out to be a pretty proven method of increasing training stress. I'm using it specifically for knee rehabilitation. So I'm going to go over a little bit of what it is, why I'm doing it, what my experiences with it are. So for those of you that don't know, the idea of this is that by restricting blood flow to an area, you can quickly increase the rate at which fatigue sets in. Now, fatigue by itself is a really powerful trigger for growth. We create fatigue in training with effort by doing more weight, more reps, working harder, pushing more to a limit. This is a way of getting there artificially faster. So the idea is that as you fatigue, muscles are contracted by a chemical process that creates metabolites or waste products. And as those waste products build up, the muscles can't contract anymore. So your body has to rotate to other motor units that are fresh, that aren't bathed in those metabolites. So as you do, let's say, a very hard set of 20, as you get into those later reps and you fatigue, your body is trying to recruit new motor units to keep the workload going, and that stimulation is what creates new growth. So by creating fatigue faster, by getting that substrate deficit quicker, that process happens sooner. So you're getting to a point where you're recruiting satellite motor units faster, so you're getting more stimulus for growth. And because it happens quicker, you don't need as much actual weight or as many actual reps to create the same effect. So muscle teardown actually isn't as great, or you can actually get a pretty pronounced effect with limited wear and tear, limited muscle teardown. So the byproduct of this, and even now as I feel it, I feel like a trapped fox. Like, you start sweating a little bit, your heart rate kicks up. You understand why animals chew their legs off when they get trapped, because it's very claustrophobic. But this creates a feedback loop in your body where the pituitary gland starts secreting growth hormone like crazy. I've seen it cited as upwards of 170% of an increase in growth hormone secretion. And that's because your body thinks you just went through the ringer for a workout. Just that little action of restricting blood flow, and then as those metabolites start to build up, you feel that lactic concentration build up. It feels like your body just went through it. So it's kind of tricking yourself into this growth process, but it's not much of a trick. I mean, you are fatigued. I mean, this is burning like crazy right now. Now, there have also been studies related to like endurance and VO2 max. I've seen some stuff with cross-country skiers. They showed like a 10 to 12% increase in strength just by doing occlusion training. And a lot of these protocols, they're not like all-out strength workouts with occlusion. There were studies on just walking with your limbs tied off. You know, you're talking about low impact, low effort activities. Just by the process of creating that occlusion effect, you still get a substantial increase in strength and in cardiovascular abilities. So the things with the cross-country skiers was pretty compelling, and it makes sense. You're talking about these activities where you are dealing with such a buildup of fatigue, such a buildup of these waste products, and your success is determined on your ability to just keep going and push through it. So it makes sense that this is a way of intensifying that effect and conditioning your body to deal with the buildup of those waste products. Now, I am specifically doing it for knee rehabilitation. I got in the habit of doing this before my lower body workouts because I found that if I do this and I create this insane pump, and my quads are pumped right now, that when I take them off, I get this huge dump of blood flow into my joints. And I found that my knees feel fantastic afterwards as they get filled with blood, and I can do a lot more productive work without having to slam ibuprofen or anti-inflammatories. So from my perspective, and I couldn't find them, I'd seen some studies in the past about how this was used to accelerate the rehabilitative process, but in my experience, if I can keep blood moving around affected areas instead of letting things kind of pool and that cycle of inflammation just set in unbroken, that I can speed up the rate at which nutrients get to damaged areas, and I can speed up the rate at which waste products flush out. And by continuously pumping new blood into these areas, getting your lymphatic system into it so fluids circulate around much more easily, that I can speed up the rate of recovery and I can knock out cycles of inflammation. And that especially connective tissue, which takes forever to strengthen and grow, I mean, it's a trick to get tendons stronger. And one thing that it hinges on is that tendons have really poor blood flow. So if you can keep those areas filled with blood, they get thicker faster. So I can cite arm wrestlers I know that beat their tendons into the ground through their training, and instead of just taking a week off until they recover, they're in the next day doing a lot of banded work, a lot of low impact, low wear exercises just to drive blood in. And they find they get a better effect. Their joints feel better, they recover faster, they thicken out faster. And it's just by keeping blood flow into those connective tissue areas that typically get very poor blood flow. This also kind of reminds me of what happens with cupping. I've had cupping before that's helped out with some things where you're really just moving fluid around by creating a vacuum in one area, by pulling blood into one area, you pull it out of another, and then when you release the stress, redistribute that fluid, it seems to have interrupted, or it seems to be able to interrupt the inflammation cycle that if any of you have had tendinopathy issues, when it sets in, it can be damn hard to get rid of. And for those of you who think, well, inflammation, it's part of the healing process, it is, but if it was a perfect process, we wouldn't need intervention. And there's a point where you've been dealing with tendinitis for months or years where clearly things aren't healing, so you have to get creative. So in the short term, I really find that this helps me feel good without having to take anti-inflammatories, so I can get the necessary minimum work in I need to. And in the long term, it seems to be better for moving blood around, for expediting that recovery process. And all the while I'm doing it, I'm getting a little bit of an edge in terms of conditioning and cardiovascular work. I'm tempering my legs to adapt to a threshold they certainly are not used to. Especially as my knees have been achy, I haven't been able to squat. Usually high rep squatting is a big conditioning tool for me, specifically for strongman. So I'm really hoping that this has a little bit of a payoff with things like a chain drag I have coming up, some carry medleys where the quads can get torched pretty quick. So I'm hoping this builds a little bit of an endurance base. As of right now, I got about 2 to 3 more weeks of no squatting. I'm gonna do everything I can to get my knees happy and healthier. And then I got about 6 weeks of training after that, where I'm gonna try to squeeze in 4 or 5 light high rep squat sessions, see what I can come up with. But so far, this has been a very productive method of getting myself to feel better. So I don't know, it feels like about 5 minutes. Whew. Light stepping, that's all it took. So if you can see, let me get this out of the way. So these are on pretty tight, that's on pretty snug right now. And I don't know if you can see, my quads are pretty tight right there. They're pretty engorged with blood. So if I snap this sucker off, I'm a little too fat. You're not gonna be able to see vascularity or anything, but if I take that sucker off, I'm telling you right now, just that right there, I feel everything flooding down into my knee. I'm getting a lot of blood flow in there. And already the knee joint where it's a little achy, taking stairs and sinking into a bodyweight squat. Whew. Already I can feel that they're, oh, see, that doesn't even hurt. That this morning was pretty painful, and that feels a lot better. So at the very least, I could get a minimum amount of training in. And the fact is, I'm trying to get contest ready. I need my endurance higher. I'm also trying to cut weight. I need to lose about 10 pounds in the next 2 months. So diet is oriented towards that. So all of this is going to help. So it fits together. So now I can actually go right into my basic training. I can go into whatever GPP or deadlift work I had, some of the throwing I have to do, tosses, like keg tosses, stuff like that, that historically can be a little stressful. I have a little bit more confidence, bigger margin for error, and I'm I'm not going to get those twinges that set me off all at once. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. This has been something I've been doing 3 to 4 times a week, specifically before my workouts. And so far, it's been very beneficial to kick off my workouts, but I'll keep you guys updated as I get closer to the contest, Clash on the Coast. It is at the end of May. It goes through the end of May to the beginning of April. Sorry, it's at the end of April. It goes from end of April to the beginning of May. So that's in Georgia, in Tybee Island, in a couple of months. I'll keep you guys posted how this went, how it's affected my training, and how my knees are doing. But for now, that's all I got for today. Leave questions and comments in the comment box. Till next time, this is Bromley at Empire Barbell. I'll see you.